I met my match, innocently sitting on the floor, cross-legged with my laptop, working through a staff meeting in Fort Lauderdale. My life was about to change in a way I would not fully be able to grasp for many years. With multiple unsuccessful attempts to recreate an experience so intense, I'm going to share a poem I wrote entitled Fort Lauderdale, which I feel perfectly embodies this experience. Fort Lauderdale. The sound of the room vanished. Everything suddenly a blur. The sound of masculine chatter in the hallway draws at my gaze. That voice. My senses begin to tunnel towards the doorway. Those arms. Still seated on the floor, laptop in hand, but somehow no longer connected to my body, I am pulled effortlessly across the room. That smile. Fuck, he made eye contact. My throat drops into my pussy. Don't look up, don't look up. My eyes refuse to remain on the floor. I have no control over my body. As if watching myself from the third person, my eyes slowly make their way up your calves. That chest, those shoulders, that smirk, those eyes. Fuck, those eyes. I said don't make eye contact. Piercing, just piercing. I can do nothing to pull away. Why will you not free me from your gaze? I blink slowly back to the floor, fluttering back up to your eyes, still fixated deep into mine. Fixated and fierce. You have me completely. I don't even know who you are. Later that weekend, shortly after the intensity of the office trailer on the water, I found myself back on land, under the awning of the staff hauler, refilling the ice cooler. Bent over, restocking the excessive amount of sponsored energy drinks we all consumed every day, my body jolted in ecstasy. Every neurotransmitter within my body was firing at that single moment. My body was completely unable to produce a breath as a set of masculine hands gripped firmly onto my hips. I saved your life, he whispered. It was him, the dreamboat from the hallway. Still completely unable to gain control over what was happening inside of my body and my panties, I gasped, speechless. I turned around to find his face directly across from mine, close enough to inhale his breath into mine. My body softened at the sight of his smile, then melted into complete surrender of his control at the sight of his gaze. Who are you? I screamed inside. Never in my life had I ever been so entranced by someone's energy. His presence made me defenseless and sedated, while simultaneously emphatically aroused. Nothing else in the world mattered that weekend. I had to know him. Being in charge of delegating staff meals, I made sure to hand-deliver the meals to his crew that day. His gaze was just as piercing through his sunglasses as I pulled up next to him. If the lady boner in my pants could talk, I wouldn't even tell you what she'd say. He had a hex over me, and I had no intention of fighting off this witchcraft. Also conveniently in charge of staff communication, I didn't have to search very far for his phone number. I played it coy and sent him a text message about his lunch. It was on. My enthusiasm for my work just seemed to get in the way of my daydreaming about that sexy man across the track. I found every excuse to talk to him that I could, including plopping right down next to him as he finished his staff meeting, and demanding that he tell me about the sleeve of tattoos that graced his voluptuous arm. He reveled in my attention, and it was not long before we were texting back and forth all day, every day. Everything about him fascinated me, and his flattery and impression of me never fell short of exceptional. The way he paid attention when I spoke, the way he made eye contact deep into my soul, and the way he engaged with me were a girl's wet dreams. But that wasn't even the best of it. He challenged me in a way that no man had ever done before. He was intellectually stimulating and not afraid to call me out on my shit. I am a Gemini through and through, so to me, mental connection with someone is one of the sexiest things on the planet. He quickly came to know me better than I knew myself and easily became my best friend. I didn't even stand a fighting chance. I was crazy about him. I was all in and I was addicted. We fell emphatically head over heels in love and fast. His name was Liam. To say that Liam and I had a steamy love affair would be the understatement of the century. It was the best summer of my life. He empowered me in ways I didn't even know were possible. One of my favorite things was the way that he would explain how impressed he was with my work. I've been in this industry for 20 years. You're the real deal. You'll run this shit someday, no doubt, was a normal validation of my work. Damn, did he make me feel jubilated and elated. Sure, it was stroking my ego, but I loved the affection and attention. I was undoubtedly infatuated with this man. However, it wasn't just about me. I completely melted his tough guy exterior, and he poured his whole vulnerable heart to me regularly. He was going through a lot in his personal life, an ugly divorce, troubled teens at home, and I was the only support system that he had. Keeping our steamy relationship on the down low from most coworkers, my newly found depth of orgasms really brightened up my ability to thrive at work. I was on cloud nine, and Liam was my everything. I had the dope job, constant travel schedule, and the sexiest man in the paddock. My life was good. Liam had been in the industry almost as long as I was alive at that point, so he was a great sounding board for my frustrations with the system and management of these gigs. And he always held space for me to vent, release my feelings, and then fuck them all away. He reminded me of how incredible I was at my job and that I would run these companies one day. It's almost like he had a crystal ball that I didn't have access to. Remember how my sponsor told me that anything I put before God I was guaranteed to lose? Yeah, I didn't remember either, until it ran me over with a pickup truck. There was one event that year that I did not produce. I opted out so I could attend my brother's graduation from college. While I was away traveling with my family, Liam brought his kids to the historic site that we were producing an event for. His ex-wife came too. Liam was a ghost that entire weekend, making no mention that the children's mom was in attendance. I heard about her presence at the event from one of my coworkers while I was helping them troubleshoot a work issue. The man I was head over heels in love with was radio silent in the same hotel as his ex-wife. I like to think that I'm a creative genius with a great imagination, so it came as no surprise that I drew up some pretty elaborate stories about what was going on in my absence. I confronted him about it the following weekend when I returned to work. He was acting differently and something in him had shifted. He wouldn't elaborate about what had happened, and I was livid. As the end of the weekend drew near, he left the job site without even saying goodbye. He got in his truck and started across the state, heading home. Watching him drive away, he couldn't have brushed me off in a way that was any more obvious as I called him to see what had happened. He was not interested in explaining. Who the fuck does this guy think he is? I raged to myself. Just peace out with so much as a goodbye? I was beside myself, blood completely boiling inside of me. How was I supposed to function after feeling like I had just gotten run over by a bus? I had no idea, but my boss was messaging me to get back to the hauler and help her wrap up the event. Unsure that I was even able to breathe, I made my way back to my computer. I wasn't about to get into this with her, so I took a deep breath and sat down next to her. I went back to banging on keys and completely shut down emotionally. We had just produced one of the most perfect events of the year, and my walls were thoroughly back up. He had royally fucked up. In true Morgan fashion, I had to lock it all up and get back to work. There was no time for emotion when there was this much work to be done. So I didn't. I buried myself back in my work and pretended Liam never existed.